CV Pride Community Center, in association with Georgia Equality, hosted a screening of the African American LGBT documentary film The New Black on September 25th, 2015. Here are clips from the Q&A with Columbus, Georgia community members following the film.
Already earlier this year, and I believe you will be showing it again.
Yeah, it was shown. Rob showed it at the public library, and we were there for that discussion. And then October 14th, it'll be shown at the CSU library.
Okay, and then we have Patricia. How you pronounce her last name? Lassiter. She is the field organizer for the Georgia Democratic Party. I think with both panelists, they have a very good perspective. Both of them have seen the movie before and discussed the movie and have heard other feedback about the movie. But again, I would love to hear from everybody that's here and have just seen the movie, because this is again not a Black issue. This is our issue. We get, the best way to do anything is to divide and conquer, and this is kind of what we're discussing tonight: is how they divided and were able to conquer. Okay, ladies.
Do you want to do more of the
Yes. This
round.
round.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to utilize some of their discussion questions to kind of like keep it in perspective. But we don't want to box it in. We want it to be organic. But what it is Georgia Equality has partnered with Promised Land Film to show this movie, and now currently the movie now is on Netflix. Yeah, I said that right. Because I don't give it all kinds of other names. Oh yeah, it's on the move. But the version that you get on Netflix isn't this version. And the whole concept behind it is to stimulate conversation. So yeah, we just gonna
Yeah.
We just
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sort of like turn my.
kind of circle it in, or
Yeah, make it a little bit more of a circle, and because we're a smaller group, and there's no sense in
Being so formal.
absolutely.
Oh,
So first of all, just one of them general questions, kind of like throwing this question there. Is there anyone that didn't get the movie? Is everyone okay with what they saw? Oh, great.
I was reading subtitles in the other room. But I'll watch it on Netflix.
The one on Netflix is going to be longer. Okay.
Longer has never bothered me.
No, the reason I say that is because actually the longer version, which I finally saw, is actually nicer. Well, it ain't nice. It just explains
A little bit more.
because they cut off certain things just when they get into explaining something. It's just part of the like when I think part of like when the guys were having their discussion. No, the two women at Big Mama. The Big Mama.
They did that.
Yeah, they edited that part out.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. The pastor, the Furman pastor. I think they cut some of his sermon out.
That was a little bit longer. It's
Yeah.
a little bit
I
longer.
mean, it isn't complete, but it ends up being like an hour and 42 or something. But you know, but this
74
It's
minutes.
a 54 minute.
74, yeah, so
Yeah.
hour
53 minutes.
hour 14. Yeah.
Broadcast first.
But this is the version that I use. So a couple of just major questions. Ha.
I think I'd like to just start off by commenting as you find a question. One of the things I really appreciate about this documentary is that there are very rare times on any topic, problem, issue in the Black community where they go and they get into the weeds of how we think and what we feel. If you don't know any of that, you would think that the African American community is monolithic and that we all think the same way, we don't debate on anything, and that we don't live different lives. And And I think this film just demonstrated that very well, and it is a truth. There is still a lot of debate in the African American community on a lot of issues, including gay marriage and a lot of other issues and so forth. And I kind of appreciated that in the film, and it resonated.
I'd like to say something, when you're saying about the black people and they're centralized, let's look at other groups of people. You're not the only minority. Take a look at people who are Hispanic. A lot of them in the Catholic background.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get some feedback, and you know how Catholic is. They're not friendly to the gay thing. So,
Catholics are divided on that too. You can't club them all.
Yeah, you
That's
cannot.
Exactly. So there's what the comment you're making. There is a parallel of the same type of issues. This is just highlighting what's been going on in the African American community for years. And I like one of the segments that talked about the fact that, am I to question that first I'm black, or am I female first, or am I gay? Is that really important? Why do I have to rank them? All of that is important. It's my life. I have brothers and sisters. It's their life. In the bigger context, that even resonates and means something else. And yes, there are a lot of communities where it's the same thing in the Hispanic community. It's the same thing in the Asian community. That duality, because what's common among all of us worldwide is there are religious thoughts that really dominate a lot of culture around the world. And so it comes up against that, so that, it's not an isolated thing, but I just don't think that, I like the fact that the film kind of brought that out and kind of exposed that nuance in the black community.
That was what I found interesting, because I never really noticed that. I just figured everybody was individual and had their own thoughts. I never realized that that groups would use that we thing, like I think they showed that they did. That was kind of that was educational for me.
One of the points I like, and great points. One of the things I'd like to point out is in the beginning of the film, the police captain, I still haven't learned the character's name. It's like the 17th, 18th time I've watched this movie. But the police captain for Maryland, for the Prince George Police Department, when she talked about the household she grew up in, she had an African American father and
Mother from the Netherlands.
Right. So she didn't have a black mom and a white mom and a black dad. She had parents, and that was the way that was her world view. What the filmmaker tries to do is to make that point that one community is not monolithic, but when you look at some of the issues that it discussed, for instance, when I was at Abraham Baldwin College, I got to go a young lady came up to me and she totally identified with that last scene. I remember her name, Caress, the activist who went back to a foster mother's home and started giving up the goods. Like, well, I've always felt this way, but the family was, the foster mother had this sincere religious home, and she didn't want to buck against that system. I guess, well, she probably put it in another street or whatever the punishment or the consequences were for that. And actually, there were young white students coming out to me, not coming out to me, but after the event, they came up to me and they were saying, well, that part, that's what happened to me. So it's not about color, but it's just letting you know that this happens in that universe. One question. The civil rights part. My question is civil rights only a black issue?
When we first moved here, it was interesting because Muskogee County has a large population of blacks, but also a large population of Hispanics. And Muskogee County only does minority majority transfer. They used to, but they only consider blacks as minorities. And so when a Hispanic went to have a minority majority transfer, they couldn't get one because they're lumped with Caucasians for that particular reason, just for that. But it's interesting that we don't see that Hispanics have just as much heritage, just as much struggle, just as much diversity. And I think in this movie, what triggered me most was that this shows that we can see ourselves in our struggle because we don't discuss it. We don't sit and discuss what our struggle was, how we came out, how it impacts us. But when in this community we're so diverse, why don't we appreciate that? Why don't we look at it and say, hey, we are diverse? Why don't we look at the whole community as a large and see that it's an issue as a community and not just a Black issue, it's not just a Hispanic issue. It's our issue, everybody. If you're going to be able to provide for your family, being able to get married would be a very good thing. That way you can put them on your insurance, you can claim your taxes, all these things. It's a civil rights, and it doesn't mean black, white. It just means people being equal.
To me, it was there was a lot that had to do with educating around the issue, and it started out with when Proposition 8 went down so badly in California. There was a huge backlash because people were hurt and they were angry, and a lot of it came to the Black community, and they were like, "You were the ones that put it over the top," and they sort of meant that because you've been traditionally an oppressed minority, how dare you oppress another minority? And that's just not the way human beings think. You know, human beings, no matter where you are, you feel like you just need to be on top of somebody. You know, and that's universal. That is just universal. But it came back really overwhelmingly, and a lot of Black people were like, you can't just blame us. And a lot of it had to do with religion, and it was almost universal with a faction of every single religion was the reason why. You know, it went so badly. Fundamentalist Mormons came out. Fundamentalist, all kinds of different ones came out. There were people in the Mormon community and people in every single community that were for us. But the fundamentalism came out, and it went to the people that they thought would be able to put it over the top. And so a lot of this film was a reaction to it wasn't just a race thing that did it. And so why don't we dig a little bit deeper? And while they're doing that, and what you found in ABAC was that the things that resonated for the people in this community and in this movie that just happened to be Black resonated across the line. You had white people like, I felt the same thing as Caress felt when she said, "Did I bring shame to you?" And everyone sort of felt the same thing. Everybody felt that, and that's how that cuts across.
And I wasn't an accident either. I think a lot of the white anti-gay actors use Black people as a front. Well, you can't say it's bigotry when Black people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it comes out and he says this in the movie.
They were counting on that.
Yes.
To reflect. And also the lady that said, the prophet, and it made it sound like the Black people failed. They said, how could you let this happen? And she did say what, but my mind already jumped at, what did the Black people do? They didn't do anything to cause that to fail. It was the people that didn't want to go for it. It's nobody's fault, except for the ones who say no.
And she was saying it out of a lot of pain, because the person who said that, Robin Tyler, I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a lesbian that has just been so good to our community as a whole. But she'd probably been with this woman for 35 years. She was speaking out of pain, and it wasn't like an indictment of the Black community, but seeing Black people that have shared a lot of the pain that she has, that voted against her. She would have said it against anyone, but the Black ones said that one bit more. They're dark, for goodness sakes. So seeing that, and she said that, but a lot of people resonated with a lot of people. But had she had a chance to elaborate, I knew that she gets it. She's one of the smartest women.
I'd like to kind of come in on what you said. Yes. She felt, I think she was in a state of pain, but one of the other commentators comes around and says, well, there was this natural assumption that the black community would identify with the struggle of the LGBT community. And basically, there was no complete check-in. And on the work that I do, traveling around the state of Georgia, it's that way here in Georgia. There's no communications as to what should happen. And then again, there's that intimidation factor. You know, you try to sit down at the table and have a discussion, and someone whips out one of them 1,000-pound Bibles, and
That's
quickly.
quickly.
It's the problem in Augusta. It's the problem.
Background.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? The one with the big letters, the war pages, dog-eared pages. But the thing about it is, so since that intimidation factor is there, the conversations, the two ships passing in the night and the conversations never happen. I mean, as a matter of fact, the conversations are avoided. And we know that ignorance breeds fear. Because you don't know, or because we don't know, or because people don't know, automatically assumptions are made. Or
Well, people want to justify their hatred too by not caring whether they're right or wrong, and that's the basis of bigotry to me. Some people just don't care that they're wrong. They don't care to learn more. Is I feel this way. It's so visceral to me. And by the way, my spiritual dogma backs me up. So when that shows up in the debate, that's supposed to shut it down. And I think we're at a point today that there are ways into that debate to take that out in a way. And I think the film did a good job of ushering that. I think one of the most thought-provoking moments in the movie was when the preachers were coming out for question 6 and how they phrased that as either we're going to be inclusive or exclusive. We don't have to get out into the weeds of scripture and stuff. And if we're going to not look at other things in the Bible and allow it to legislate citizen lives, then why are we choosing this one issue? I think for me, the saddest thing about Proposition 8, I remember I think I cried that night when it happened because I have friends in California that got married and then they're looking up on that day and they're finding, oh, we're not married. Oh, today we're married and we're not. And it just hurts so many people. But the fact that all the churches came together and understand about all the millions of dollars that were funneled, how many children could have been fed, how many homeless could have, and so it just says more. It says more about that religious community, those religious communities, to come out so viscerally on that issue. You know, the hatred, the vileness behind that. That's terrible.
I like to challenge one word you said. You said there's spiritual dogma. I like to say.
Well, yeah,
I like to say they're religious dogma.
We play semantics. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I kind of want to add, he pointed out one of the questions. What do you think it would take to develop a more united LGBT movement that is inclusive of all racial groups, especially here? We are so divided. I mean, here I see it. I mean, if you go to a gay club, it's either all white or it's all black. Either it's all female or all male. It's so divided, and I just want to hear from you. I mean, what do you think?
In this town,
Uh-huh.
in this town, it has nothing to do with sexuality. The only thing with the monolithic groups that I can't abide is when we openly admit that we still have struggles and we still have things that need to be conquered. We never take a moment to appreciate how far we have come. We act like we're so downtrodden to hell. We are standing on the backs of those that came before us and have fallen for the rights we have now.
Yeah.
And to act like that we've not succeeded is a slap in the face. Now, it's no longer like it used to be. When you went to the gay club for protection, you went to the gay club so you were not beaten up. You went to the gay club because it was where you were accepted. Then it became popular to be diverse.
Yes.
And then you had business leaders, business owners, that opened clubs based on the community they knew. It was not a thing where a white business owner said, I'm going to open up a gay bar and it's going to be a white club. They decored it, they DJ'd it because of the community they knew, which was Caucasian. Then you had a black business leader that opened a gay bar who decorated and DJ'd it based on the community she understood, African American community. Well, now I can go, Candy can go to any club downtown, and I do not fear. That is an amazing thing that's happened in my life alone. But that's a double-edged sword. So when you have bars go under, the black people that used to go to the black gay club now go to the black straight clubs. And the white homosexuals that used to go to the white gay bar now go to the Caucasian straight bar. So it's almost like we've succeeded in blending with the heterosexual community easier than we do with the racial.
Interesting.
That's
But-
a very good observation.
But it's, I mean, like I said, it's double-edged sword. We have to admit that we've come a long way, but we have to admit that costs some things. Like the unity. I remember when the night of Prop 8, having the same person on MySpace, that's how long ago it was, the same person on MySpace cheering the liberals and Democrats for voting for Obama. And then saying those evil conservatives. Whoa. If every person who voted for Obama had voted right, it would, you've got to own that. You've got to own it. And that night is when a lot of monolithic beliefs in people came tumbling down. A lot of people thought that the entire African American community could transfer their understanding of struggle from this to that. And you're right, groups don't do that. It's almost like I'm willing to remember my struggle as being coming out to my family, to my religion, all of that. And the first thing I went through, I ran through, why aren't they like me? Why don't they think like me? So it's almost like as soon as we get a little bit of acceptance within our group, we reset ourselves back to zero. And we don't take the experience.
Well, that makes us more normal than anything else. But in 2008, Obama still hadn't made his change. You know,
Right.
He was still saying God is in the mix and all this other kind of stuff. So he was like,
He's trying to get elected.
That transformation came closer to the second.
And so the people pretty much voted with him. But there's a movie that's been released today, Stonewall. And there's
Yes.
a lot of backlash over that
Yeah, it is.
because of the perceived and I think real transphobia and perceived racism of the particular artistic piece because the movie has been sanitized as to the person who started the modern gay rights movement was some horse-head, very nice-looking straight acting. That's how they identify. That's how the director identified straight acting. Young white child from Kansas, and he's the one that picked up the rock. Actually, he was handed the rock in the movie by a black person, and he threw it. That's how everything. It's just sanitized. And the thing is, we have once again, as you were saying, we have to remember where we've been.
Right.
And we do remember. It's only a few years ago, for goodness sake. And so when we talk about the homophobia in the black community, the racism in the LGBT community, and all this other kind of stuff, we're living it right now, and there's no reason to forget. And but we have come a long way, but we've come a long enough way to be analytical. And sometimes we're either celebrating or crying. There has to be a middle.
I just want to cut in. That's the point that you were making was really good. I just wanted to kind of like add in that I was fortunate enough to have an extended conversation with a prominent minister here in Columbus. And I've talked with one of my confidants, and she's indicated, well, that would be a good person to try and have some dialogue with. But even he will have to struggle to have conversation. But I'm really happy that you brought up that point. That we've come a long ways over time. But then again, there's this old guy had to say it. He was like, "Well, most people are concerned over if the glass is half empty or if the glass is half full. It's like, hell, the only thing I'm concerned about is that there's some water in the glass."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where.
Yeah, you go ahead. You.
Well, yeah, but you know, when you're speaking about we come a long way, and yes, we as gay people have come a long way, but that would not have happened if it wasn't for the women's rights, the blacks' rights, all of that was leading to our history. So we're picking up behind that because if it weren't for these leading people, and women were the first to ask for their rights to vote, and then blacks wanted to have the rights to be equal, not only just be equal, the right to be both, be able to go to every place without saying, "Oh, well, wait a minute, you can't go to this place, but you got to go there."
Right.
Black and gay people said, "Oh, well, you can't be here either." You know, and if you find out,
Young lady indicated
a lot of people, and and what really gets me when they say the word God hates, that hurts people to the core when they actually believe that, because that's not true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
because that point that you made was a good say.
I had this really interesting conversation with my uncle. My aunt passed, my great aunt passed, and we went to Texas. And I've never really come out to my family. They just kind of know. It's just not, we don't discuss it. It just is. And my uncle became a minister. Now he had us laughing the whole time we were there because he said, "I got 15 people in my congregation because I speak what I speak." And when he was explaining to me about God is love and that I preach the Bible, I'm no better than anybody else. And I think it's that religion gives us that comfort to say that we're the chosen. God loves us, and we know. But then somehow we get it's that same thing that gives us that. Well, you're not. You're not chosen because we do it. Every religion does it. You're not chosen. You're not the chosen ones. We are. You're not that one. If you believe,
and that's the human element.
That's the human
We do
element.
that outside of it's done outside of religion.
If everyone is chosen,
yeah.
then no one is really chosen.
There you
Well, that's like I said, the job,
right?
The place of modern religion, and I use that modern organized religion, is the ranking, classifying, and categorization of sin. If you go back 50, that's the job. If you go back 50 years ago, the number one topic on every minister's lips was divorce. It was a sin. Divorce. Then you look around and it goes, over 50% of my congregation. Gotta change that.
Yes.
Because I'm sorry, organized based religion, and I'm not talking about your small church. I always said I'm not talking about where you have a pastor. I'm talking about where you have a reverend. Pastors get it. Well, where you have a reverend, he's got to keep butts in those pews because it's a show. And you cannot insult 50% of your audience every Sunday and expect to keep those pews filled, people. So you keep having to find a sin because you got to preach against something. That's what preaching, especially in the South. It's never for anything.
My congregation isn't that big.
It's not preaching right.
And the funny thing,
Against them.
the day I realized the connection between organized religion and the business model of you cannot offend over a certain percentage of your crowd was certain drag clubs. The MC was known for doing insult comedy, and people loved it. And other MCs would try and it would fail. That's because the big clubs with a lot of people in them, you can insult 10 people, and you've only insulted 1% of your crowd. If you only have 20 people in your club, and you insult 10% of them, so my question, my thought always is, okay, so divorce used to be a sin, it supposedly still is, but we don't preach it, it's not preached against anymore. What's the next domino to fall? In the South, for a while, it was interracial marriage was a sin. You had to stop that, and that, we got a few people that are let that go. Homosexuality, and I'm wondering how long it's going to take before large church, and you see some of them doing it now.
Well, it is happening.
Yeah.
There was some research I did over the summer. There was a playwright at CSU who had written a play called The Old Ship of Zion, and it was about the Black church based here in Columbus, and it talked about homophobia in the Black church. I'd done some research, and even just nationwide, churches among millennials, they're